Hey YouTube, what's up? This is your girl Megan. Welcome back to my channel. If you're already a subscriber and if this is your first time joining me on today, go ahead, hit that subscribe button because you know you want to. And today I'm going to do a breakdown of the natal chart of Jhonni Blaze. So I'm pretty sure some of you guys may know her. She is a former stripper. I believe she had romantic connections to Drake. She was also on Love and Hip Hop. She's now a current reality star on the show Growing Up Hip Hop. And, you know, she's kind of had various little reality show stints and things of that nature. But she happens to be known more so for her antics. I mean, she happens to be a very talented woman. She plays the piano. She has a pretty good singing voice. However, I believe she hasn't really started trying to pursue her music career until more recently. When she first came on the scene, she was more so known for trying to expose Drake doing the whole cat stack situation. And as she went on to discuss in her Breakfast Club interview today, it kind of tainted her image. So yeah, it was kind of interesting that she ended up coming on the Breakfast Club because a few days ago I was watching that reality show Growing Up Hip Hop, and she was acting a fool as always, and I decided to take a look into her chart. And it's just crazy that the interview came up today because it gives me a reason to go ahead and break this down with you guys today. So let's get started. So Jhonni Blaze was born on June 10th, 1990, which makes her a Gemini, okay? I don't have her exact time of birth, so I just used the placeholder of 12 a.m. Therefore, we're just going to refrain from getting into her rising sign because you would actually need the exact time of birth for that to be accurate, okay? She was born in New York, and just right off bat, when I saw the fact that she was a Gemini, it made a lot of things just make sense off bat because Gemini is a mutable sign. They're mutable air. And something that I've noticed is that mutable signs in general, whether it's Pisces, Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, tend to be very violent. They have very violent tendencies. When you look, I actually looked up a list of serial killers. I'm going to place it here. Everybody on this fucking list has a mutable sign. All of these are mutable signs. And that's very telling. And I say that to point out the fact that one of the, biggest things Jhonni is known for is her temperament, is her tendency to be violent, her tendency to engage in physical altercations. You can definitely tell she's a volatile person. And I'm not saying that if you have a mutable sun sign, you're going to be a violent person. Of course not. There are actually several factors in her chart that reinforce this. And that's how things tend to work in astrology. There are a lot of different factors, right? A different cocktail of energies and contacts and aspects between planets that can definitely reinforce a certain behavior that, in a person that can be displayed differently. So it's not a one size fits all here, but I want y'all to keep this in mind as we just break down this chart because it says a lot. Now, another thing that I see is that Jhonni's moon is in the sign of Capricorn. Now, what is the moon? In astrology, your moon is your emotions, your subconscious, the yin realm, the things that cannot be seen, the part of you that's hidden, that you kind of reserve for the people that really know you. It represents your mother, how you were nurtured, even like the mind, the most intimate parts of ourselves, right? So a lot of people who have Capricorn moons tend to suffer, I see, from severe bouts of depression, as Capricorn is also the sign of depression. This is a placement for somebody who can also be very opportunist, I want to say. And you can kind of see this as far as the way Jhonni moves in the industry. When she first came out, like I said, she was linked to Drake. She was linked to a lot of hot rappers, actually, because she was like the it stripper girl at the time. And, the way that she kind of positions herself with other people, positions herself with people in positions of power. I'm not saying that she's a bad person per se, but there is that desire to kind of achieve a certain status, to maintain a certain look, to keep a certain footing, to, you know, achieve her goals by putting herself in certain crowds. Jhonni's moon is in square to her Mars, which reinforces her volatile temperament. A lot of times people with this aspect tend to have very sudden and explosive outbursts of anger. They have very volatile tendencies, right? And when you take into consideration that her Mars is in its home sign of Aries, this creates somebody who is very impulsive. This actually points towards the fact that Jhonni cannot help herself, okay? You got to think about the fact that Aries is governed by the planet Mars, and Mars is a warrior planet. So, I mean, what does a warrior do? They fight. They're TTG, trained to go anytime, place. They don't sit and think about the consequences of their actions, right? They don't sit back and assess what's going on. They react. And that's exactly what Jhonni does. It's almost like she cannot control herself. And this aspect just reinforces that. Another thing that I found really interesting with Jhonni's Mars being in Aries is that this placement also makes for somebody who is very sexual, a highly sexual, physical person. And a lot of people, women in particular, with Mars and Aries tend to come off as just very promiscuous. Aries is a masculine sign, so it's highly likely that these people are just like very aggressive when it comes to sex, very aggressive when it comes to, you know, what they want and how they express their sexuality. And I think Jhonni is all of those things. I mean, she started off, like I said, as a stripper / like video vixen. You know, it's very clear that she's not shy about her sexuality, nor is she shy about her sex life. And this placement also reinforces Jhonni's masculine energy. Like, she has very masculine tendencies. I mean, she looks feminine, right? I'm not saying that she looks like a man, but have you seen her when she gets angry? Her voice gets really deep. She definitely comes across as very controlling, a very dominant type of woman. And Mars Aries women typically do come off as very dominant, very controlling. They oftentimes like to dominate the person that they're with, which could often result in domestic violence, domestic abuse. I mean, going both ways, either way. And this is something that I believe Jhonni actually spoke on. And I mean, I found a picture here. I don't know if this was from her relationship, but somebody knocked her teeth out, and that's why she's walking around with these extra fucking large veneers. But this just reinforces Jhonni's tendency towards both just violence and very turbulent, violent, dominant type of love relationships, you know? Jhonni's Mars is also in square to her Uranus. Now, this reinforces that just unpredictability, like wild card factor about her, because people with this aspect tend to be very unpredictable, very impulsive, okay? And this just reinforces the fact that Jhonni has a very hard time controlling her reactions to things. She has a surplus of energy, and it's very hard for her to curb, you know, the way that she responds to her environment and things that happen to her. These people are also known for being very controversial, and indeed she is, you know, like I said, with the whole scandal exposing Drake, and just her personality in and of itself. She's always fighting, she's always in some type of melee, always in some type of dispute, controversy, one way or the other. She's beefing with somebody, she's knocking over this, she's dragging this person, and that's very much a testament to her Mars square Uranus. These people tend to cause a lot of destruction and a lot of chaos wherever they go. These are very polarizing type of personalities to where people either love you or they hate you. And Jhonni is definitely embodying that. Jhonni's moon conjoined to Uranus makes her emotionally just unstable. And I think that's pretty easy to see on the outside looking in. This indicates that Jhonni swings from one pendulum of emotions to the other. Now, most humans have kind of like a neutral baseline, right? When we're not affected by situations that could either make us happy or sad, there's this kind of need for homeostasis in our emotions, right? To where you're able to be neutral. You're able to be kind of just middle line down the road if you're unaffected by certain outside actions and events. Jhonni does not have that. Her insides are chaotic. Her emotions are chaotic. She's constantly reacting to things. She's constantly, even if they're things that she brings about on her own, like her own emotional pain. This is actually an aspect of somebody who I feel probably undergoes a lot of psychic attacks, because this is a very psychic aspect in nature. This also reinforces Jhonni's relationship with her mother, or lack thereof, as people with this aspect tend to have either physically or emotionally unavailable mothers. And this definitely makes sense given that Jhonni's childhood was so traumatic, you know. Jhonni's Jupiter opposing Neptune points to a tendency to overindulge. This reinforces that addiction factor. She spoke that she struggled with addiction for some time. I believe it was cocaine was her drug of choice. I'm not sure. But either way, this aspect creates somebody who not only is prone towards overindulging in substances, but also has some inherent psychological issues. This is another reoccurring theme that I see in her chart. So this girl really needs some help. Jhonni's Mars squared her Neptune also reinforces her drug addiction. People with this aspect tend to have very, very deep-seated addiction or substance issues. This also could point to her being a victim of sexual trauma, the subject of somebody else's sexual obsession. This reinforces her being sold into human trafficking when she was younger. I believe she spoke on that in her interview as well. This aspect also comes with lots of public scandal, which Jhonni is no stranger to. And I'd also go on a limb here and even suggest that drugs isn't the only thing that Jhonni tends to be addicted to. I think she suffers from sex addiction as well. Her Venus is actually in opposition to Pluto. So this reinforces that theme of domestic violence, as it could point towards somebody who spends a lot of their life either being dominated or trying to dominate other people. Pluto is the planet of domination. It's the planet of force. It's the planet of transformations. It's the planet of control. So you can actually use this aspect to point towards the death of her ex-boyfriend. She was speaking that she dated a guy when she was younger who ended up getting shot in front of her and what so have you. So Venus, anytime you have Venus in a negative aspect with Pluto, this is somebody who encounters the darker side of relationships, the darker side of love. And with death being just the ultimate transformation, this reinforces her, encountering relationships where her partner actually expires. Jhonni's Pluto also makes a square to her ascendant, and I find that people with this aspect tend to just naturally be put here to undergo major transformations to their life. And given that your ascendant also represents your appearance, these people can go through major, like drastic changes to their physical appearance, which falls true for Jhonni, given that she's had, like, I don't know how much plastic surgery done. She discussed getting her, butt done, and I'm pretty sure she's had her boobs done. The bitch went and got like fake 6-pack abs on her stomach, and it looks really weird because, like, girl, you don't have that athletic type body. So, like, I'm just confused as to why you just don't go work out, but that's neither here nor there. Johnny's Venus is also making a direct square to her ascendant, which reinforces the theme of her not loving herself. A lot of people with this aspect tend to have very deep-rooted insecurities, self-doubts. They tend to not feel like they're good enough. They tend to question their value, their worth. All of these things are things that Jhonni actually admitted herself in the interview. This could also create somebody who is just naturally off-putting to other people. They don't really gain a reputation for being the nicest, the kindest, the sweetest, most easiest to get along with type of individuals. Obviously, once again, reinforcing Johnny's just natural flair for controversy and just chaos. Johnny's moon conjoined to her Neptune once again reinforces these addiction issues. God bless her, Lord. She has a lot of, this is deep. She has a lot of problems here. But it also points to her being insecure. It points to her inability to love herself. It points to her questioning her self-worth. This also points to the fact that Jhonni is very sensitive. She's very sensitive to people's thoughts of her, their feelings of her, their opinions of her. She tends to shape the way that she views herself based on the thoughts and opinions of others. Now, this is something that I picked up on as well, because she was so, like, amped, and it was almost like she had seen previous interviews of the Breakfast Club, and Charlamagne tends to rag on people, some more so than others, but that's a different, I'll get into that later. But yeah, it was almost like she was just anticipating him dumping on her or having something mean to say about her, to the point where she just jumped out the blue and started talking about herself. You can tell Jhonni is a very insecure girl, and this appears all over her chart. This could even suggest that her mother was some sort of victim as well, whether it be a victim of, abuse or drug addiction. So that's something to think about, because a lot of times addictions are hereditary. Johnny's Mars is in square to her Jupiter, which is in the sign of Cancer. So this just reinforces her inability to balance out her emotions. She needs physical activity. She needs some sort of outlet, some constructed way to release her energy, or else it could result in, explosive outbursts, or just a misdirection of their energy, and that manifests as being very confrontational, problematic, or even just taking your emotions, your feelings, your sensitivities out on other people. This shows that she is going to manifest the most success in this lifetime by channeling those energies and taking that hypersensitivity that she has, and combining it with her natural ability to lead, her natural ability to just be a really good businesswoman, because I see that from her as well. She's a really good hustler, and learning how to toe the line between self-control and knowing when to exert force, in a controlled and practical way, is really going to help her moving forward. Despite Jhonni having it kind of tough when it comes to just the way her astrological cards were dealt, she's also a very talented woman. She plays the piano, she can sing, and all of that good stuff. So that can be seen in her chart, as both her Mercury and her Venus are in the sign of Taurus. Taurus being ruled by the planet Venus, which is the planet of beauty, the planet of love, even the arts. So this definitely points towards her just musical inclination, her desire to make music, her desire and her interest to even work with instruments. This also indicates Jhonni's tendency towards just being very indulgent when it comes to her money and expenses. She was talking about how in the beginning of her career she had financial troubles, and that she ended up being the type of person who would shower the people that she cared about with gifts, even when it comes to men. So that Taurus energy is very much, it places a lot of emphasis on worldly material possessions, and these people tend to shower and lavish both themselves and others with material items, almost to the point where it becomes, detrimental and just overindulgent, which is something that, she should just take caution to. Everybody should, but especially Jhonni. That overindulgence theme is running really strong in her chart. Jhonni's sun is in quincunx to her Pluto, which points towards her being in subservient positions towards a lot of the men in her life. And I found this to be interesting because, she was speaking so candidly about her experiences as a sex worker. So I'm not sure if this could be her pimp, maybe boyfriends, managers. She spoke, she wasn't that close to her father, but this definitely points towards somebody who, as I said before, is either dominated by other people or seeks to force her will on other people. So this shows a lot of times Jhonni has fallen on the bad end of the stick here, right? She's used to being dominated by men. This is reinforced also with her sun in quincunx to Saturn, which points towards there being a male figure early on in her life that was very critical of her, very hard on her, I hate to keep using the word domination, but that's kind of what I'm getting. And to the point where over time, this created her to be a person who is just very hard on herself, who's very critical of herself and self-doubting and even self-deprecating. Jhonni's moon is also opposite to her Jupiter. Now, this points towards her very intense personality. This points towards her being just very a warm, engaging, just sociable. She seems like a very sociable person, and these people tend to be very just charismatic, very engaging. But this also reinforces Jhonni's inability to hide her feelings. Okay, people with this aspect tend to struggle when it comes to controlling their emotions. And this also, once again, reinforces addiction, her addiction problems in her chart, because this aspect can also point towards somebody who tends to overindulge. Once again, that recurring theme of overindulgence. This could be food, and her weight has actually fluctuated, so I'm pretty sure she might even self-medicate with food at times. This could be drugs, of course. This could be sex, anything, so that's definitely something to think about. And finally, I'm going to take a look at Jhonni's lunar node placements. In astrology, your south and north node represent basically like your karmic path, if you will. Your south node basically represents your past life or traits that you were born with in this lifetime that you tend to lean on to, that eventually create problems for you as you get older. And the only way to combat this is to develop more of your north node traits, which are going to be sitting in the opposite side of your south node. So Jhonni Blaze is a Leo south node with an Aquarius north node. This points to Jhonni's need for fame. This points towards Jhonni's quest to be just this huge celebrity musician. She's on a quest for spotlight. She's on the quest for just fame and fortune. And people with Leo south nodes tend to be very self-centered. They tend to be addicted to drama. They tend to be catty. and just very full of themselves. These people can also be very just over the top, emotionally over the top, and materialistic. And of course, obviously, Jhonni is known for just her larger than life responses to situations. And so, I mean, it's clear to see that she's been living out her South Node up until this point. Now, the thing about having an Aquarius North Node is that Aquarius is the sign of humanitarianism, right? It's the sign of the activist, the person who is here to help others. And I think that the only way that Jhonni can actually find success in this lifetime is to spend that time serving other people. So, and it's interesting that her Venus is actually squared to her North Node in Aquarius. And I'm not going to say that she's not going to be successful in her music ventures per se, but I will say that this definitely points towards the fact that she's not put here to be that. I don't think Jhonni Blaze was put here to be a musician or a video vixen or anything of that nature. I think her purpose here was to take all of these transformative experiences and create a situation to where she's championing and rallying and protecting the rights of other people who have gone through similar experiences, encouraging others who have gone through similar experiences. And the fact that she tends to hoard a lot of and place a lot of value on the type of lifestyle that she's living now is going to be counterintuitive to that. Learning how to detach from her own emotions and, not focusing so much on serving her own will and serving her own purpose could actually be beneficial to her, because it can allow her to, forge meaningful relationships and connections to other people. So yeah, that concludes my just general overview of Jhonni Blaze's natal chart. Go ahead, drop me a comment down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts, opinions, and any further suggestions. So as always, make sure you guys practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And until next time, I holla.